A 23-year-old with zero fashion experience posted a few Instagram stories. 12 months later, she had a $200 million company, and traditional clothing brands still have no idea how she did it. Right now, there's a revolution happening in fashion. Old brands with decades of history, massive marketing budgets, and celebrity endorsements are losing to kids with smartphones. These new brands aren't playing by the old rules. They're not doing fashion shows or magazine ads or celebrity partnerships. They're doing something way simpler and way more effective. They're using Instagram stories, and they're absolutely destroying the competition. Today, we're going to dissect exactly how one clothing brand went from zero to $200 million in 12 months using nothing but Instagram stories and a strategy so simple it sounds stupid. Until you see the results. We're talking about Fashion Nova, Gymshark, and others who've cracked the code. But the story I'm about to tell you is even crazier. Because this playbook is being copied right now by thousands of brands. And if you understand how it works, you'll never look at Instagram the same way again. This isn't just about clothing. This is about how social media completely changed business, and why your favorite brands from 10 years ago are probably dying. Let me tell you about a brand called Princess Polly. You might not have heard of them, but if you're a woman under 30, you probably have. They ran an Australian fast fashion brand that went from basically nothing to doing over $200 million in revenue in just over a year. Not through traditional advertising, not through influencer partnerships, through Instagram stories, obsessively, strategically, relentlessly using Instagram stories. But before we get into their specific tactics, we need to understand what changed in fashion retail. Because this story doesn't make sense without context. 10 years ago, if you wanted to start a clothing brand, you needed serious money. You needed to design a collection, find a manufacturer, order inventory, rent a retail space or at least a warehouse, hire staff, create a website, pay for advertising. You were looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars minimum before you sold a single piece of clothing. And if your designs didn't sell, you were stuck with inventory you couldn't move. The risk was enormous that kept most people out of the fashion business. Only people with serious capital or investors could compete. The market was dominated by established brands. Zara, H&M, Gap, Forever 21. These companies had economies of scale. They could manufacture cheaply. They could advertise widely. Small brands couldn't compete. Then a few things changed simultaneously. First, manufacturing became accessible. Sites like Alibaba connected anyone to Chinese factories willing to make small batches. You didn't need to order 10,000 units anymore. You could order 500 and test the market. The barriers to production collapsed. Second, e-commerce platforms like Shopify made it easy to build an online store. You didn't need to know coding. You didn't need a big tech team. You could set up a professional-looking store in an afternoon for $30 a month. Third, and most importantly, Instagram changed how people discover products. Before social media, brands needed advertising budgets to reach customers. TV commercials, magazine ads, billboards. That stuff cost millions. But Instagram was free. If you could build a following, you could reach customers without spending $1 on traditional advertising. These three changes created an opportunity, and a bunch of young people who grew up on social media realized they could start clothing brands without any of the traditional barriers. They just needed to understand how Instagram worked better than everyone else. Princess Polly understood it better than almost anyone. Here's what they did. They identified their target customer, women aged 18 to 28, who spend hours every day on Instagram, not occasionally checking it, living on it, opening the app dozens of times per day, watching stories obsessively. Then they reverse engineered what would make those women buy. And they figured out something brilliant. Young women on Instagram don't want to see polished magazine ads. They want to see content that feels like it's from their friends. Casual, authentic, real, even if it's not actually real. So Princess Polly built their entire brand around Instagram stories that feel like they rate from your cool friend who has amazing style, not from a corporation. The stories show real girls, not models, wearing their clothes in everyday situations. At brunch, at the beach, at a party, the photos aren't professionally shot. They're iPhone quality, sometimes intentionally blurry or poorly lit, because that's what real stories look like, and they post constantly. Multiple times per day. Not just product photos. They post memes. They post quotes. They post videos of their office. They post polls asking followers to vote on which dress they should stock. They create the illusion that you're part of a community, not just a customer. But here's where it gets smart. Every story has a swipe up link, or now is a sticker link since Instagram changed how it works. But the point is the same. Every single story is designed to drive immediate action. See a cute dress? Swipe up to buy it right now. Vote in a poll about what style to restock. Swipe up to see the results and shop. Watch a video of someone unboxing their order. Swipe up to get the same items. They turned Instagram stories into a direct sales funnel. And because stories disappear after 24 hours, there's urgency. You can't save it and come back later. You see it, you like it. You buy it now or it's gone. That FOMO drives purchases. They also figured out the algorithm. Instagram's algorithm rewards engagement. The more people interact with your stories, the more Instagram shows your content to others. So Princess Polly optimized everything for engagement. Polls, questions, quizzes, anything that makes people tap the screen. And the algorithm rewarded them by showing their content to more people. They also used a tactic called micro-influencer seeding. Instead of paying one celebrity $1 million to post once, they sent free clothes to thousands of girls with 5 to 50,000 followers. Girls who weren't celebrities, but had engaged audiences. These girls would post stories wearing Princess Polly clothes, tag the brand, and their followers would check it out. This cost Princess Polly almost nothing. A few $100s in free clothes per person. But each micro-influencer brought in dozens or hundreds of new customers. The ROI was insane compared to traditional influencer marketing, and because these were smaller influencers, their endorsements felt more genuine. Their followers actually trusted them. Princess Polly also mastered the haul video format. They encouraged customers to film themselves opening their packages and trying on everything they bought. These haul videos would get posted to stories and TikTok. Free advertising. User-generated content that felt authentic because it was real customers wearing real clothes, showing real reactions. And here's the psychological trick. When you watch someone try on clothes in a haul video, you're seeing how it looks on a regular person, not a model. You can imagine yourself in those clothes. It's more relatable than professional fashion photography, so it converts better. They also used exclusivity and scarcity. Drops became a thing. Limited quantities of specific items released at specific times. Announced through stories. If you weren't watching, you missed it. This trained their audience to check stories constantly because they didn't want to miss a drop. It created addiction to their content. The numbers behind this strategy are crazy. Princess Polly reportedly went from doing about $50 million in revenue to over $250 million in just a couple of years. Most of the growth came from Instagram-driven sales. They're now one of the biggest online fashion retailers for young women, and they did it without traditional advertising. But Princess Polly wasn't the only one. Let's talk about Fashion Nova, because their story is even more extreme. Fashion Nova basically invented this playbook. They started in 2006 as a small chain of stores in Los Angeles. For years they were nothing special, just another fast fashion brand. Then around 2013, they went on Instagram. The founder, Richard Sagian, realized that Instagram was where his customers lived. So he made Instagram the center of everything, not the website, not the stores. Instagram was the brand. Fashion Nova started posting 15 to 30 times per day on their main feed and stories, not occasional posts, a flood of content. They hired photographers to shoot new content constantly. They worked with thousands of influencers. They commented on celebrities' posts. They reposted user content. They were everywhere on Instagram all the time. And they focused on a specific aesthetic: tight, sexy, curvy. They positioned themselves as the brand for women with curves who wanted to show them off. At a time when most fashion brands were still using size 0 models, Fashion Nova was celebrating bodies that look like real women. Well, real women with specific body types. But it was different enough to stand out. They also made Cardi B their unofficial spokesperson. Before she was famous, they sent her clothes when she was still a reality TV star and Instagram personality. She posted about them constantly. When she blew up and became a massive celebrity, she kept wearing Fashion Nova. That association made the brand cool to her millions of followers. Fashion Nova's revenue went from basically nothing to over $400 million in just a few years. At their peak, they were making $800 million annually from Instagram. They spent almost nothing on traditional advertising. Everything was social media. Their Instagram strategy was simple, but executed at a scale nobody else could match. Post constantly. Work with every influencer who would take free clothes. Engage with followers obsessively. Make shopping feel urgent. Keep prices low so impulse buying is easy. An outfit from Fashion Nova cost $30 to $50. Low enough that you could buy it without thinking too hard. Especially if you saw it on a story and loved it. Swipe up. Buy. Done. Transaction complete in 30 seconds. The speed was important. Fashion Nova could go from seeing a trend to having knockoff versions for sale in 2 weeks. Sometimes less. Someone wore something on the red carpet. Fashion Nova had a similar version on their site within days. They were fast fashion on steroids. This required a completely different supply chain than traditional fashion. Traditional brands design collections months in advance. They manufacture in bulk. They ship to stores. By the time you can buy it, the trend might be over. Fashion Nova manufactured in Los Angeles to reduce time. They did tiny runs of each style. They restocked based on real-time sales data from Instagram. It was responsive in a way traditional fashion never could be. Now let's talk about Gymshark, because they did something similar, but in the fitness space. Gymshark was started in 2012 by a 19-year-old kid named Ben Francis, who was working at a pizza delivery job. He liked going to the gym, but thought existing gym clothes were ugly or too expensive. So he started making his own, sewing them himself at first. He started posting pictures of his designs on Instagram. People liked them. He started selling a few. Nothing crazy at first. But then he figured out the influencer strategy. Instead of trying to sell to random people, he reached out to fitness influencers, not the massive ones, the mid-tier ones with 50 to 500,000 followers. He sent them free gym clothes and asked them to post about it if they liked it. Many did because the clothes were actually good and free stuff is free stuff. Their followers saw the posts. Many of those followers were into fitness and needed gym clothes. They checked out Gymshark. They bought. This created a snowball. Each influencer brought in customers. Some of those customers became micro-influencers themselves, posting gym selfies in Gymshark gear. That brought in more customers. The brand grew organically through social proof. If all the fit people on Instagram were Gymshark, it must be the cool gym brand. So more people bought it to be part of that community. Gymshark also used athlete ambassadors differently than traditional sports brands. Nike signs LeBron to a $100 million deal. Gymshark signs 100 fitness YouTubers and Instagram influencers to deals worth a few $1,000s each in free products and small payments. The total cost is way less than one big celebrity. But the reach is comparable because those 100 influencers are creating content constantly, and their audiences are highly engaged. Gymshark went from basically zero to over $400 million in revenue in about 8 years. They're now worth over $1 billion, all built on Instagram and YouTube influencer marketing. They've barely done traditional advertising. It's all been social media. The common thread in all these stories. Instagram stories became the most powerful sales tool in fashion, not posts, stories. Because stories are ephemeral, they create urgency. They feel more personal than posts. They can drive direct action through links, and people watch them obsessively. The data on stories is wild. Instagram has reported that 500 million people use stories every day. The average user spends about 30 minutes per day watching stories. That's 30 minutes of highly engaged attention. Compare that to TV commercials where people are half paying attention or fast forwarding through. And stories allow for a different type of content. They can be lower quality, more casual, more frequent. You can post 10 stories per day and people don't get annoyed the way they would. With 10 feed posts, stories are expected to be constant updates. That gives brands way more chances to reach you. Brands figured out they could essentially create their own TV channel through stories. Post throughout the day, show new products, share customer photos, do polls and quizzes. Tell stories about the brand. It's content marketing on steroids. And it costs almost nothing to produce compared to traditional marketing. The cost advantage is important. A 30-second TV commercial during prime time might cost $50,000 to produce and another $50,000 to air once. That's $100,000 for one 30-second spot that maybe reaches 1 million people, most of whom aren't your target customer. Compare that to Instagram stories. Production cost, zero if you're using a smartphone. Distribution cost, zero because Instagram is free reach. If you have 100,000 followers and post 10 stories per day, you might reach 50,000 people per day. That's 1.5 million people per month, your exact target customers, for free. The ROI is incomparable. Traditional advertising can't compete. That's why these Instagram native brands grew so fast. They had a cost advantage that translated directly to profit or lower prices or both. There's also the data advantage. Instagram tells you exactly who watched each story, how long they watched, if they interacted, if they clicked through. You get real-time feedback on what works. If a particular style of dress gets tons of engagement, make more like it. If something bombs, stop showing it. Traditional advertising gives you vague viewership numbers. Instagram gives you actionable data. Brands use this data to optimize everything. Test different photo styles. Test different times of data post. Test different types of products. Test different messaging. It's like having a focus group of thousands of people giving you feedback constantly, for free. But there's a dark side to all of this. These brands aren't making quality products. Fashion Nova and Princess Polly are fast fashion. The clothes are cheap, made in factories with questionable labor practices, designed to be worn a few times and thrown away. They're contributing to massive environmental problems. The fashion industry is one of the biggest polluters on Earth, and fast fashion makes it worse. These brands also promote unrealistic body standards. Despite Fashion Nova claiming to celebrate curves, they're still promoting a very specific body type. Heavily filtered photos, women who've had surgery to look a certain way. It's toxic for young girls who compare themselves to what they see on Instagram. The business model also relies on manipulation, creating FOMO, making people feel like they need to buy now or miss out, encouraging impulse purchases of things people don't need. It's effective marketing, but it's preying on psychological vulnerabilities. And there's the question of sustainability. These Instagram native brands grew incredibly fast, but can they last? Fashion Nova's revenue has already started declining. Turns out when your entire strategy is based on cheap, trendy clothes and Instagram hype, customers don't stay loyal. They chase the next trend, the next brand. There's no real brand loyalty. Traditional fashion brands have staying power because they build actual brand value. People buy Nike or Levi's for decades. Will anyone be buying Fashion Nova in 10 years? Probably not. They'll move on to whatever brand is hot on whatever platform replaces Instagram. So these brands are in a constant race. They have to keep growing, keep posting, keep creating urgency. The second they slow down, customers leave. It's exhausting and probably not sustainable long term. Some brands are trying to use the Instagram playbook more responsibly. Reformation is a clothing brand that uses Instagram heavily, but focuses on sustainable fashion. They're transparent about their manufacturing. They use eco-friendly materials. They promote a message of buying less but better quality, and it's working. Reformation is doing hundreds of millions in revenue. They've proven you can use Instagram marketing without being environmentally destructive or ethically bankrupt, but their prices are higher. Their margins are lower. They grow slower than the fast fashion brands. Everlane is another example. They do radical transparency, showing customers exactly what each item costs to make and how much they mark it up. They use Instagram to tell stories about their supply chain and their ethics. They've built a loyal following of people who care about those things. But these ethical brands are still the minority. Most Instagram native brands follow the Fashion Nova model because it's more profitable in the short term. Ethics are expensive. Speed and cheapness win in the algorithm. There's also the question of what happens as Instagram changes. These brands built their businesses on a specific platform with specific features. What if Instagram changes the algorithm? What if stories become less prominent? What if people move to a different platform? It's already happening. TikTok is eating Instagram's lunch among younger users. The brands that won on Instagram are now scrambling to win on TikTok. It's the same playbook, but different execution. Short videos instead of stories. Different influencer dynamics. Different content styles. Fashion brands are posting dozens of TikToks per day now, partnering with TikTok creators, running hashtag challenges, buying TikTok ads. It's Instagram stories all over again, but on a new platform. The brands that adapt will survive. The ones that don't will fade. We're at an inflection point. Right now, the Instagram story gold rush is kind of over. Everyone's doing it. It's not a competitive advantage anymore. The brands that won early have scale and recognition. New brands are finding it harder to break through because the space is crowded. The cost of influencer marketing has skyrocketed. In 2015, you could get a micro-influencer to pose for free products. Now they want thousands of dollars per post. As it became clear how valuable influencer marketing is, influencers started charging accordingly. That's eating into margins. Instagram is also prioritizing Reels over Stories because they're competing with TikTok. So, Stories are getting less prominent in the app. The algorithm is changing. The tactics that worked 2 years ago don't work as well now. Brands have to adapt again. And customers are getting savvier. They know when they're being marketed to. The casual, authentic aesthetic that works so well is now obviously calculated. Everyone's doing the same thing. It's losing effectiveness. The brands that will survive are the ones that actually build something. Beyond Instagram hype, real product quality, real brand identity, real customer loyalty. The ones that used Instagram as a growth tool but aren't dependent on it. Fashion Nova is struggling now. Their revenue is down. They're facing lawsuits over labor practices and copyright infringement. They relied heavily on Instagram and didn't build a real brand. Underneath, when the Instagram algorithm changed and competitors copied their tactics, they had nothing else to fall back on. Gymshark, on the other hand, is doing well because they built a real community. Yes, they grew through Instagram, but they created genuine brand loyalty. People identify as Gymshark customers. They wear it like a badge. That's way more valuable than just having Instagram followers. A clothing brand can build a $200 million business in 12 months using Instagram stories. It's been proven multiple times. Fashion Nova, Princess Polly, Gymshark, and dozens of others have done it. The playbook is simple: post constantly, work with tons of influencers, create urgency, make buying easy, optimize for the algorithm. But it's not magic. It's just understanding the platform better than anyone else and executing relentlessly. These brands post dozens of times per day. They work with thousands of influencers. They analyze data constantly. They move fast. It's not passive. It's exhausting. High-speed marketing. And it works because Instagram changed how people discover products. We don't watch TV commercials anymore. We don't read magazine ads. We scroll Instagram. We watch stories. We see what our friends and the people we follow are wearing. That's how we decide what to buy. Brands that understood this early won big. They reach customers directly without needing traditional advertising budgets. They built businesses that would be required tens of millions in funding in the old model for almost nothing. That's revolutionary. But there are downsides. Most of these brands are built on fast fashion, which is terrible for the environment and often uses exploitative labor. They manipulate customers into impulse purchases. They promote unhealthy body standards. They're not building sustainable businesses, just chasing short-term growth, and the advantage is eroding. As everyone uses the same tactics, none of them work as well. The cost of influencer marketing is rising. The platforms are changing. What worked 2 years ago might not work now. Brands have to keep adapting or die. The future probably belongs to brands that use social media marketing but combine it with actual quality and ethics. Brands like Reformation and Everlane that leverage Instagram, but also build something real underneath. That's harder and slower, but it's sustainable for now. Though, Instagram stories remain one of the most powerful business tools ever created. The ability to reach millions of your exact target customers every single day for free. That's insane. No wonder traditional brands are struggling. They raise spending millions on advertising that doesn't work, while kids with smartphones are building nine-figure businesses in their bedrooms. That's the world we live in now. Social media changed everything. The brands that adapt win. The brands that don't die. And it all happens faster than anyone thought possible. 12 months from 0 to 200 million. That's the power of understanding the platforms better than everyone else. What we reveal next will change how you see every brand on your feed.